Welcome everyone. What we are going to do today is we are going to continue with solving Google CTF Qualification Round task Hx8 teaser 2 as in second task in the Hx8 teaser in the MISC category, and we are going to continue solving it since we already began last week. Last time we got to the moment where we were like we already knew what to do to maybe not even solve the challenge fully, right? But to at least implement one cheat which would make this a little bit easier for us to navigate, to walk. Okay, what we arrived at last time is basically displaying which keys we are pressing. And the idea was that we now need to figure out, sorry, where was this level? Okay. So shift is apparently 65505, but we are not going to use the numbers. What we are going to use is we are going to use the arcade's symbols for key names. We can see these like arcade.key.w, arcade key L shift. We are just going to use these symbols instead of relying on the numbers. Okay, so what we discovered last time was that there was obviously there was a game logic loop, which is continue from here. Thank you past Gunveil for actually noting this. Which means that we can start modifying which keys are actually pressed. But first of all, even before we start modifying which keys are pressed, we would have to figure out, hey, are the controls actually inverted or not? So let's just find how does this code access the player? I'm just going to look for player. There we go. Just self player. Okay, so there's not much logic here, and let me do self player and then do inverted controls. So I just maybe I'm going to display this first. I'm just going to display it and check if this is actually the field which tells me if the controls were inverted, and here's the catch, in the previous frame. We would have to implement something like predicting the next frame, basically running the engine while preserving the old state. So we preserve the old state, but we run the rest of the engine, but without sending data to the server. So we can then predict the frame and see, hey, after this frame, did the control inverted? If they inverted, yeah, then we just know that for this frame, we also need to already invert the controls as well for us. But that's not a huge problem, that's just one frame. Okay, so it's false here, we can see it's false, but let's approach the camera now. Okay, camera, yeah, sees us, and it just changes from false to true, as we can see on the left side here. If the controls are inverted, then I'm actually going to create, I guess, a copy of this thing, of this list. Let's call it my keys. And then at the end of the day, I'm just going to replace the array. I hope the array, because I'm replacing it, right? So I actually hope that nothing holds a reference to this object, but rather everyone accesses these ROS pressed keys directly. And I do think that's the case. Everyone is using just this and they aren't making a copy of a reference. Otherwise, if I would be really worried about it, I would just clear this list and append my list to it. So I'm not touching this yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create an empty... Oh, sorry. Was it a set, though? I think this one was a set, right? Because I'm using AND here, which AND is an operation you use with sets. You don't use it with lists, really, so I know it's a set. What I'm going to do is, if the set contains, and I guess it was called arcade.key.something, right? We have movement keys here, and these are the only keys we care about. So let me go back where I were. Here, I'm just going to paste them. I guess this is what I'm trying to achieve. If W is pressed, so if W is here, I'm actually not going to put W in my keys. What I'm going to put in my keys, I'm going to put S, which is down, I guess. And I guess I'm going to do this only in the if. If S is pressed, then W. Then if A is pressed, A is left, then we want to go right. Yeah. So we invert it so that the camera, when looking at us, will invert it again. There will be basically double inversion, which cancels each other out, which is good. I guess we can test it now. And again, we will be one frame late, but that's not really an issue. So let's go here, and I'm just going to press Shift D. So I want to go right all the time, and let's see if it works. No, it doesn't. Oh, it looked at me, and this absolutely failed now. So maybe what I should do is I should copy this set actually. So I'm just going to I think that's the easiest way to copy a set, right? And I'm going to from my keys, I'm going to remove all the direction keys. Let's just copy it 4 times. And let's just copy paste this 4 times. Okay, A, W, S, D. Yeah, and now it crashes because oh, it throws that key error if something is not in the set. Okay, let's hope this works. I'm removing W 2 times. Am I? Really? Oh yeah, D. Thank you. And I'm pressing Shift D only. Come on, look at me. Oh, okay. This didn't look good, but I also pressed another key. So yeah, look at me. No, it's going the other direction. Why are you going the other direction? As you can see, we are like quickly alternating between the keys. And the problem here is that, as I explained on the previous live stream, the way this like raw pressed keys array, or rather set, works is that there is like an event handler. An event handler if you press the key, and an event handler when you release the key. And because this set doesn't hold information about which key was just pressed in this frame, nor does it hold information which key was just released in this frame, it holds the information about which keys are being actively pressed continuously, right? If I press D and I hold it, it remains in this set. But because like the inverted controls is true all the time, I just keep like flipping, which is exactly what's going on here. As you can see, like 100 into 97, 97 into 100, and so on and so forth, right? What we can do, instead of replacing and working on these raw pressed keys, we can maintain our own inverted keys all the time. We maintain our keys, inverted keys, all the time in a separate set. Yeah, and it's like, I'm not going to call it like my keys now, I'm going to call it like inverted keys. And I'm going to replace this everywhere here. And now, instead of like overwriting these press keys, which just like messes everything up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce a new variable, which is called used keys. And if the controls are inverted, I'm going to use inverted keys. But if it's not inverted, I'm going to use raw keys, like the actual raw keys. So I'm going to replace, this is mine by the way, so I'm going to replace used keys with this. Then system tick, I'm going to put used keys here as well. And I'm already making a typo here because like used key is not in self, it's actually in the namespace of this function. Okay, enter here, and again, Shift D, out of sync cheating detected. What? How? Why? That kind of means that somewhere down the line, I missed one raw pressed keys. Where is it? Here is this send game info, and I'm still sending the raw pressed keys, which I should not do. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to send used keys. You can say, well, Gunvale, there's no used keys in self, but there will be in a moment. Self used keys, I'm going to add a set. I don't think I even have to define it here, but let's define it here just in case. And here, the moment I use used keys, I actually need to use self. Yeah, I don't think like this game sends just all the objects which are in the game state to the server. Okay, let's go here and again, Shift D. Okay, it works, it works. Yep, no issue. Oh wow, the flame burns, but it works, so let's just continue. Oh, this guy, yeah, caught me in this weird state for a frame, but that's fine. Let's grab the poison, I don't know why. Okay, and let's continue. Here's the cannon, but that's fine. And we know that at the end of this corridor there's the flag, right? So let's just go. Wait, wow, okay, we died. So let's time it correctly. Hey, this flame is like super... No, wow, it's super fast. So how are we going to reach the flag if this flame damages us for 1000? So we already, I believe, looked at the poison last time, but let's look at the poison again. So I just opened it. And what it does when we drink it, right, it just like decreases the HP by 1. The client and the server actually have identical, like literally everything is identical between these two, otherwise the state would differ. Which means when we look for a bug, and we find a bug in the code, it will be also in both places, which is a good thing. Which means we can again use this like synchronized directories in double commander, but this time we can look at py files. So what changed in projectile, for example? Let's take a look. So affected by gravity falls was a new thing which was added, and what you cannot see because it's kind of hidden here, so it's just like scrolled like this like update position. There's update position, which I guess means like it was maybe added for projectiles, right? Like, well, this is the projectiles file. So it was added to move the thing. Combat. This is where things start to get interesting in the engine. So these two things were actually exchanged. This is interesting. If active projectiles are more than 0, then self-update active projectiles. Okay, so updating projectiles was moved higher than update active weapon. An active weapon apparently is calculated now, like whatever logic updates are happening, they're happening after the projectiles are already updated. I guess like the question is like, what's in update active projectiles? Like, what's going on there? And let's look for this update active projectiles, and it's here. So, okay, if collided or if it's out of bounds, then remove the projectile and also remove it from the physics engine. And if the origin was player, check player projectile. So I guess if the player shoot a bullet, right, then no, the cannon is shooting at us, right? So we care about check enemy projectile. And what the check enemy projectile does is we check if it collides with the player, which makes sense. Did we get hit? And if so, check damage and decrease player health. And then check if the player is dead. So one question I have actually is like, in Poison, right, we just decreased the health, but suddenly I find out there's a function for decreasing health. Why isn't this function used here, right? Decrease health. Points is maximum of 1, and we round points. Oh, this is by how many points. And then self-health, which in this case would be player, we set it to maximum of 0, or the minimum of, so this is clamping. I don't know why Python doesn't have a clamping function, which is like exactly what's happening here. It should, I believe, but it doesn't. And then we check if the player is dead. And by the way, let's go back again to this change, right? What changed is like the order of things. So the projectile, the cannon hits us. Our health gets decreased to 0, but I guess the dead check isn't there yet. And then we check active weapons, and the poison is a weapon, which kind of means that we can use the poison, so we change our HP to -1. The issue is that we need to do it every time we get hit by the poison, and this has to be frame perfect. Now, one trick actually Bonus told me is that maybe you can get the game to lag, or you can just decrease the frame rate so that you can do it and time it correctly. Another way to do it would be just to implement that, like, hey, is this projectile close enough to the player that the player has to drink the poison? And whichever way we go, whether we go with slowing down the FPS, there's a nice trick for that, by the way. But I think what I will actually do is I will try to implement, like, how close is the projectile to the player, actually. And based on that, yeah, just like drink the poison, get your health to -1, and then we should get the flag. So this shouldn't take us more than one more stream to solve. Given that you know how to solve it now, I really recommend that you try it on your own and, like, yeah, come back to the next stream with a flag and, like, share how you solved it in the end. So thank you very much, folks. Take care, folks, and see you around.